It only takes a single lie to burn down a man's life. But what happens when the ashes start to whisper the truth? Before the lie, before the shame, before the silence, there was Obi. He was not born with riches. He was carved from hardship. Obi woke every day before the sun stretched its arms. The birds had barely begun to sing. His uniform, pressed the night before, hung on the nail beside his bed like a soldier waiting for orders. A worn Bible rested by his pillow, open to Psalms, always Psalms. His room was modest. A single fan turning slowly, a tin bucket by the door, a faded picture of his late mother beside the window. He lived alone. He liked it that way. Every morning, he bowed beside his bed. "Lord, keep my path clear. Let me serve with dignity and protect those who trust me to guard their home." He worked at the Aduma mansion, a place of power, a palace, some would say. Obi was not just a guard. He was disciplined, respected, and polite. Never spoke more than necessary, never smiled without reason, never slacked on duty. Chief Aduma trusted him. The house staff respected him. Even the younger guards sought his guidance. But no one knew how much he carried alone. His father had died in a road accident. His mother, worn by grief, passed not long after. His only sibling moved abroad and never looked back. He worked, saved, hoped. He had a fiancée, Ifeoma, a teacher. Gentle eyes, strong values. They planned to marry the next year. But fate had other plans.
It was a Tuesday afternoon. The sun was a hot coin hanging in the sky. Obi stood by the gate, logbook in hand, when he first saw her. She walked like the world was her stage. Her silk gown caught the wind like it had been trained. Her eyes swept across him like he was furniture. But then she paused and looked again. "Good afternoon," she said, adjusting her gold bracelet. Obi turned, surprised. "Afternoon, Ma." She stepped closer. "You're new here." "Yes, Ma, Obi." "Obi," she repeated. "Strong name." Then she smiled, that kind of smile that meant trouble was bored. He nodded politely and returned to his post. She didn't move. The next day, she returned, with 2 packs of chin-chin. "I brought these, couldn't finish them." Obi hesitated. "Thank you, Ma." She sat on the bench beside the gate, crossed her legs slowly. "Don't ma me. Call me Maniru." "I can't. Chief Oduma. My father is not here, and I asked nicely." Obi stared ahead, pretended to watch the road, but his heart beat faster. This woman was danger wrapped in silk. One evening, rain began to fall. She appeared in a short gown, barefoot, hair drenched, laughing. "You should come inside, Maniru," he said. She stood before him, close. "Why? Are you afraid of me?" "I respect you, and your father, and I fear God." She tilted her head. "You're the first man to say no to me." He looked away. Maybe others should have. The next day, she avoided him. Then suddenly, she appeared at midnight. Her voice low. "You embarrassed me. I was only doing what's right. If you don't give me what I want, I'll make you wish you had." She walked away. He stood frozen, and the rain began again.
The scream broke the night like thunder. Maniru sobbed on the stairs, her dress torn, hair wild. Chief Oduma stormed out. "What happened?" "Obi tried to touch me." The guards dragged him in. He didn't resist. "I swear, sir, I didn't." "Enough! Arrest him!" As cuffs clicked shut, Obi looked to the sky. "God, what have I done?" The next day, headlines, rumors, radio stations buzzing. Ifeoma sat across from him in the prison visitation room. "Tell me it's not true." "It's not. Please, I swear." She placed her engagement ring on the table. "I can't." She walked away. Obi buried his face in his hands. Late that night, Chief Oduma sat in his study. He opened his laptop, clicked on the camera footage. He saw the truth. Miniru, teasing, Obi, avoiding. He paused the video, stared at the screen, then at his daughter. "Tell me the truth." She cried. "I didn't mean to ruin him. I was just angry." He sighed. "We say nothing." She looked up. "But," he said, "we protect the name." Obi sat on the hard prison bunk, hands clasped tightly together. Days blurred. Food came and went. Guards changed shifts. But one thing remained constant: his silence. Each morning, he knelt in the corner and whispered, "Lord, if my name means anything to you, clear it." A few inmates mocked him. Others left him alone. But one guard, Officer Danladi, began to watch him closely. "You pray like you expect someone to answer," he said once. Obi looked up. "He always does, just not when we want, but when we need." Ifeoma returned one last time. This time her eyes were not pleading. They were tired. "I got a job in Kano," she said. "I need to move on." Obi nodded. "You have to live your life." She placed a Bible on the table. His mother's handwriting was on the inside cover. "I kept it, for when I needed strength. Maybe now you do." He held the book like a lifeline. "Thank you, Ifeoma." She stood, paused, then left without another word. In another part of the city, Kamsi was organizing files when a news story flashed on her boss's TV. She froze. It was Obi, his face, the charges. Her breath caught. "That's not true," she whispered. She remembered him, her childhood neighbor, the boy who gave her his only slippers in the rain, the one who carried her books when her father died. No, Obi couldn't have done that. She opened her laptop. Time to find out what really happened. Kamsi searched for every piece of public information on Chief Oduma's household, staff listings, vacancies. She found one. Domestic help wanted, female, discreet. She applied. Used a different name, fake ID, new clothes, a lie to chase the truth. "I'm doing this for you, Obi," she said as she submitted the form, and waited. The call came. She got the job. Orientation was brief. Her task, cleaning and organizing shelves in the mansion's eastern wing. She stepped through the gate. Her heart beat fast, but she smiled. Obi once guarded this place. Now, she was inside it. But this time, the guards didn't know the danger was walking in, not out. As she mopped the corridor, she spotted Miniru passing. Beautiful, distant, careless. But Kamsi saw something beneath her smile. Guilt, fear. Chief Oduma passed too, slower than his photos suggested. Weighed down. Kamsi kept her head low, but she memorized every detail. Every door, every keypad. This house had secrets, and one of them held Obi's freedom. In the kitchen, a younger guard, Emeka, handed her a tray. He said, "You're new." "Yes, day 3. You remind me of someone. We had a guard here once. Obi, good man." Kamsi paused. "Really? What happened?" "Fired. Scandal. Long story." She forced a smile. "I like long stories." He chuckled. "Maybe later." Kamsi waited until everyone slept. She tiptoed to the study, just like Emeka described. She inserted the USB. Files loaded. She searched through folders, clicked on dates, surveillance videos. Then, she saw it. Obi, at the gate. Miniru, laughing, reaching, pulling. Then, the day of the accusation. Miniru alone, screaming, tearing her gown. Kamsi gasped. "You witch!" She copied the files, heart pounding. Then, footsteps.
Miniru entered. "What are you doing?" Kamsi turned slowly. "Nothing that concerns you. Give me that flash drive." Kamsi held it tight. One step closer and I scream. Miniru advanced. A loud slap cracked the room. Kamsi fell back. The USB skidded across the floor. A guard burst in, grabbing her. "Take her to the quarters. Lock her up," Miniru screamed. Kamsi lay on the cold floor of the storage room. Blood trickled from her lip, but her eyes burned. She whispered, "You can't bury the truth." What Miniru didn't know was that the footage had already been sent to a cousin, a police sergeant. Outside, a phone buzzed, then rang, and Justice woke from sleep. At 6:17 a.m., the Oduma mansion echoed with pounding. Police, 3 unmarked cars. Sergeant Boma stepped out, holding a file, eyes cold. "Where's the girl you locked up?" The house manager stammered. Who are you?" "She's my cousin, and you're about to make this worse." Inside, Miniru's hands trembled as she watched from the stairs. The storm she lit was now a fire she couldn't put out. The door burst open. Kamsi shielded her eyes from the sudden light. "Come," Sergeant Boma said. She stepped out, bruised, exhausted, but smiling. He handed her the USB she thought was lost. "You sent it to the right person." She nodded. "Now let's burn the lie." Chief Oduma stood by his balcony. "You're embarrassing me," he muttered to Miniru. The officers surrounded them. "We have surveillance proving attempted character defamation and false testimony," Sergeant Boma said. Miniru froze. It wasn't supposed to go this far." Chief Oduma sighed. "You crossed the line. I can't stop this." As they cuffed her, she didn't scream, just cried. Denladi entered Obi's cell holding a newspaper. "Your name's on the front page, not for crime, but for surviving one." Obi took the paper, read slowly. Kamsi's face, Miniru in cuffs. He exhaled, long, silent. "God still sees." Denladi nodded. "Your lawyer's coming. We'll fight this now."
Weeks later, Obi sat in the defendant's chair again. But this time, it wasn't shame that followed him in. It was hope. Kamsi sat behind him, Boma beside her. Miniru entered, escorted by officers. The judge cleared her throat. "This court has reviewed new evidence," and slowly, the truth began to speak. During recess, Obi's lawyer, Barrister Awele, sat alone. She scrolled through the footage again, the way Obi recoiled, the way Miniru grinned. She sighed. "I should have seen it earlier." Kamsi approached. "We all ignored something. Now you can fix it." The lawyer nodded, "And I will." Chief Oduma took the stand, his voice low. "I covered it. I told her to protect the name. But truth doesn't stay buried." Gasps from the room. He turned to Obi. "I failed you. I failed this house." Obi bowed his head. Some justice comes not in shouts, but silence. All charges dismissed. The judge's words rang like bells. Tears welled in Obi's eyes. Miniru was remanded. Her sentence awaited. The courtroom emptied, slowly, quietly. Only Kamsi and Obi remained. She smiled. "You still kneel to pray?" He nodded. "Every day." She took his hand. "Then thank him. We're free." Obi sat by the river where he once played as a child. Kamsi joined him. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm trying to remember who I was before all this." "You're better than who you were," she replied, "because now you've survived fire." He chuckled, "And didn't burn." She placed a hand on his. "Let's build something honest." He didn't answer, but he didn't move his hand either. 1 year later, a small ceremony, a modest compound, Obi and Kamsi. No extravagance, just truth. Chief Oduma attended, quietly at the back. During the prayers, he whispered, "Thank you for not hating us." Obi looked over. "I hated the lie, not the people lost in it." In the town, people whispered a different story now. Not of scandal, but of redemption. Not of betrayal, but of truth. And in one house on a quiet street, laughter echoed again. Because sometimes the lie that burns becomes the fire that forges.